Hi, my name is Angelique Ashby. I am the Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Sacramento, and I am the only woman on the Sacramento City Council.
Tell us about how you got involved in politics. Like, was it something that you were interested in, like, during high school? How did your aspirations?
Sure. So, no, I didn't have a big interest in politics when I was younger. I didn't know any elected officials. I didn't have any particular goal to become an elected official. In fact, not only did I not have that goal in high school, but I went to UC Davis for undergrad, and then I went to McGeorge for law school. And when you go to law school, there are a lot of people who really aspire to be in politics, and I was not one of them. I really thought I would be doing more civil rights or type work, or working for kids, maybe around sort of representing children in foster care or in proceedings like that. So I thought that was more where I was headed. But what happened for me was that I moved into a really new community that was just sort of being built, and all the things were new, all new parks and roads and businesses, and I got involved in that, and I started fighting for things like stop signs and playgrounds and fire stations, and I really liked representing my community and fighting for what my neighbors wanted, and then that just sort of grew into being a person who could fight for things for the city. So that's how I ended up running for city council. It was definitely not intentional. I didn't see it coming, and it wasn't a goal I was working towards, no.
So now that you're in politics, do you think this is something that you're in for the long run? Do you see yourself doing this?
That's a very loaded question. So for the long term, once you get here, you want to do so many things. So there are no term limits on the city of Sacramento, and each term is 4 years. So I have done 2 full 4-year terms, and then I started a new term last year. So this is the beginning of year 10 for me. If you would have asked me when I first won how long would I have been here, I probably wouldn't have guessed 10 years.
Okay.
I probably thought I would come in maybe for 8 years and then move on to something else. I'm not sure if that would be in politics, but definitely in service to my city in some way, or my region in some way, but I couldn't probably have answered for you exactly what that would be. So I think I'm surprising myself even with the amount of time that I've stayed in the council seat, but it is a really big honor to get to represent Sacramento.
So, as you said in your intro, you're the only woman on the Sacramento City Council, right?
Yeah, I wasn't when I first ran in 2010. In fact, Sacramento in the 90s, way back before I was around here, I was in high school, and you guys weren't even born yet. But back then, Sacramento was actually a majority women on the council.
Oh.
Mayor was a woman, and the majority of the council members, there's 8 council members and 1 mayor in Sacramento. They were mostly women. And over time, that number has just dwindled down. When I first won in 2010, Lauren Hammond was still the councilwoman for District 5. Sandy Sheedy was the councilwoman for District 2. And Bonnie Pinnell was the councilwoman for District 8. So there were 3 women that I was joining. Lauren Hammond left pretty quickly because she had moved on to a different aspect of life and wasn't here anymore by choice. And Sandy Sheedy stayed for a while and then decided not to run again, so she was only here for a few years with me. And her replacement was Alan Warren. And then Bonnie Pinnell unfortunately fell ill and actually has passed away. But she was the last woman that I got to serve with, and it's been a long time. So let's put this into perspective for you. This is 2020, right? Okay. I was elected in 2010, so a decade. It's been 10 years since a new woman has been added to the council. Let me ask you a question. In that same 10 years, how many new men do you think have been added to the council?
Way more.
9.
Oh, wow.
9 new men
Oh.
have been elected to the city council since I got here, and no new women. So I think that that is a problem,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's hard to know what the problem is, whether women are not running, or whether the women aren't qualified enough, or whether people just aren't voting for women, or a combination of all of the above. But it certainly would seem to me that at least one woman in that time should have made it onto the dais, and they have not.
Yeah, I would have thought that, the situation is actually kind of improving with women in politics, but to see that, like, the number has decreased is really
So
shocking.
this is a national trend, and here's the way it works. In some areas, the numbers of women are increasing, and really nationally, the numbers of women are increasing, it's just at a very slow rate. But the reason that Sacramento is facing what it's facing is not unique. This is happening in other big cities too. Just a few years ago, there were no women on the LA City Council. Now there are, but there weren't for a little while there. The reason is because the more powerful the seat becomes, the harder it is for women to attain those seats. Power can be described in many ways. It can be how much people are compensated for the seat. So, in other words, if this was a volunteer board and we weren't paid, there'd be more women. Yeah. If it were part-time, which it used to be, there'd be more women. In fact, when it was part-time, there were more women. But it is no longer viewed as a part-time position. It is not volunteer work. It is a full-time, big commitment to lead a big city, one of California's biggest 10 cities and the capital of the state of California. So it is a big deal to be here, and that makes it a more desirable seat for folks with more power and more influence, and that means more people are interested in it, and it's more competitive to get here. So that makes it more challenging for the ladies.
Wow. So what do you think your biggest challenge has been as a woman in your entire career? And it doesn't even have to be like after you got into politics, maybe
Yeah.
even before that. What would you say your biggest challenge was?
So a little bit about me. I had a baby right after high school when I was 20 years old. So a year and a half after high school, I had a baby. You guys are seniors mostly, so imagine yourself if you were a mom 2 years from now. That's a lot to take in, right? That would be a tall order. And I was young, just like you, and I didn't have a lot of money, so I had to struggle. I lived in low-income housing, and I used subsidized childcare, but I really also wanted to do better, so I worked full-time, raised my son on my own, and I put myself through UC Davis and McGeorge Law School, and that was a big challenge as a single mom. I think the biggest challenge in my life as a woman was being a single mom in school and working full-time and raising my son on my own. Flash forward, I got married and bought a home, and I have 2 additional children. And being a mom in a committed relationship with the house and more resources, a lot easier. It's a lot different. It has other challenges, but it's a lot different than being a single mom worried about money and on your own. Okay, so that was a really big challenge. But when you run for office, or whenever you're in a field that is male dominated, whether that's the practice of law or policy work or professional sports or whatever industry, you have the challenge of, first of all, your own feelings. Because when you don't see anyone like you in the space,
It's scary.
you question yourself.
Yeah.
Do I belong here? How come I'm here? Why am I the only one? Why am I here? So you deal with your own internal dialogue. And then externally, you have to relate to people in a different way, because the guys all relate to each other as guys.
Yeah.
They do things together that guys do, even the way they greet each other, or what they talk about in their downtime. They all kind of talk about sports, and I like sports too, but it's not my go-to backup conversation, right?
The relationship.
Yeah, the relationship between gals, like what we talk about at lunch, is very different than guys. So you have to find ways to open yourself up to a kind of form of communication with people that are very different from you and have different interests, but there's some self-growth in that too. But that's the challenge, I think, is allowing yourself to be who you want to be. And I don't think women should have to conform, right? So I don't want young women to think you can't have a family to do this. I was a pregnant vice mayor of the city of Sacramento. I had a baby.
Oh, wow.
I ran a council meeting on a Tuesday and I had a baby on Thursday.
Oh, wow.
Right? You could do it, and you could do it. If that's what you wanted to do, then that's what you should do. And if you like makeup and nails, then you should do that. And if you don't like makeup and then you should not do that.
Should be
You
your
should
choice.
be your choice about who you want to be, and then your career should match up with that. You should be able to be who you are and be in these positions. And so sometimes I think because prior to your generation, people really didn't have examples at the highest level of elected officials. So then Hillary Clinton becomes sort of this image, and that makes you think of what she looks like, or how she dresses, or how she speaks. So what's great about this most recent presidential election is that we got lots more people. Kamala Harris is totally different. Elizabeth Warren always wears little sweaters, which normally I do too. So I see myself reflected in her with little cardigans way more than a suit, which today I'm wearing a suit, it's pretty unusual for me. And so just having more women as role models that young people can see. Yeah, that young people can see themselves reflected in, and I just think that is a challenge that we all sort of face all the time. I think you guys face it too in school and job interviews. You just have to find. Young women that are running for office often ask me what to wear to a debate or what to wear, and I tell them the same thing: whatever makes you feel strong. Because that's going to be the thing that helps you the most, right? If you feel good about you,
you're good.
That's going to project. Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So you're how long have you been the only woman on the council?
So I ran for office in 2010 and won, and then I had female colleagues up until about 5 years ago.
Okay.
And so I've been the only woman for about 4 or 5 years.
Do you think is accomplishing anything harder being the only woman in the room? Has it changed since your colleagues left? How do you handle it?
Yeah, I do think so. I heard a story one time about the staff on President Obama's team, that the gals got together and said, it feels like whenever one of us talks, other people talk over us, or they repeat what we just said as if we didn't say it.
Yeah.
And so they made a pact with each other, these gals, and they said, if you say something and somebody talks over you, I'm going to say, hey, she was talking. Or if you say something and then he repeats it, I'm going to say, she just said that. And even if they weren't best friends or they didn't all agree on stuff, they agreed to have each other's backs in that way.
Right.
And they did it enough that the guys in the room started to notice, and then they changed their behavior, and then the need for that went away. I don't think anybody is intentionally talking over me or repeating what I say or taking credit for my work. It's just a bias that
an unconscious thing.
It's totally unconscious. And I just don't have another woman in the room to see it or recognize it or to say, she just said that, right? So I do wish that dynamic would make it a lot easier for me. And I see it manifested in different ways too. For example, the business of politics is very formal. So a lot of times we call each other, council member this or mayor that or senator this. But most of them will call me by my first name. Angelique is much more casual. But it also sort of strips you of some of the dignity that is incumbent in the title.
Right.
Right?
Because when you call a man by his actual title.
So I've held the position of vice mayor or mayor pro tem 6 different times, which is really a lot. Most people do it once in 8 years, and I've done it 6 in 10, which is a great honor, and my colleagues chose me for that. But often when they have the title, they call each other vice mayor such and mayor pro tem such and such. But a lot of times they forget to do that with me. And I don't think it's intentional at all. I think it's almost casual because they feel comfortable with me. But it does create sort of a lesser standard of professionalism for me. Another example, when I ran for office the first time, I had already graduated from law school, so I had a law degree. I owned my own business. I was the president of a neighborhood association, a mom of 2 kids, married, and doing pretty well. My opponent constantly called me the mom from Natomas. And other people called me the mom from Natomas. Now, I wasn't offended by this because I love being a mom. It's my favorite title. But if you refer to me only as a mom, you sort of strip me of my law degree,
There's so many other
my role in the community, being a business owner, a lot of things to try to sort of minimize me.
Yeah, like categorize you into one thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And not an image that you picture in at a council dais. You don't sort of picture a mom in the kitchen or at home or picking kids up or driving a minivan, which I don't even do because no. And but it sort of put me in that category, which is not a category that in the past has translated to a courtroom or a dais or a government building or a leadership role or a CEO's seat, right? 2 things need to change. 1, moms are CEOs. So our own bias about moms driving a minivan and being a CEO needs to change. That is a perfectly doable combination. But also, when a person is vying for a seat, whether it's at a city council or at the Senate or in a private business corporation world, we shouldn't downgrade them to whatever we view as the least worthy title. Right? So, at any rate, I think it turned positively in my favor because I started to refer to myself as a mom, right? Well, one mom can change City Hall. One mom can make a whole lot of difference. And moms generally are trusted figures in society. So I tried to build off of the positives of that. But my hope is that your generation doesn't face that. And that you get to be a mom and a CEO without anybody questioning that.
For sure. Yeah. What, like you said, you were the president of a business and of like a neighborhood.
President of a neighborhood association, and I own my own business. Yes.
Yeah. So you've definitely managed like a lot of like your team members. And
Sure. Yes. Yeah.
And you said, I remember reading something that like you managed your son's like soccer team.
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that?
Yeah, I don't play soccer. Let's be clear about that. But he was little, so little kids, you just have to point them in the right direction. You don't need to break down any plays or anything. When I was in my first year of law school, I was a single mom. Let's see, I don't know how old I would have been, but in my early 20s. And he would have been about 4 or 5. He wanted to play soccer, so I signed him up. And I went out to the first practice, and they told us that they didn't have a coach for the team. But there was a team, so there were all these parents there. And so they said, we'll have to dismantle this team unless one of you is willing to coach. And then, I'm sorry, we'll just refund your money. Well, my son really wanted to play. There were 2 other single moms, 2 women who would become my very good friends, that were also out there, and the 3 of us looked at each other and said, I think we could do it together. And we did. And so the 3 of us, single moms, we coached that team, and they both were working full-time. I was working full-time. I had law school, but we did great. Kids did great. They won their little division, and it was fun, and it's a good memory. But I think what it says to the world is there is no limit for young women. If I could do that at 24, so could you. And in some ways, probably being out on that soccer field, coaching that team, probably gave me the stress relief I needed to do better in law school and to have the energy for work and the time I wanted to spend with my sweet son. So, balance. It's all about balance.
Yeah. So, talking about that specifically, like the soccer team and then your own business, how you had so many things, and how did you learn to effectively manage your time and do all of this? Because while like you said, like the soccer team was probably a bit of a stress buster, like it's still a lot to handle. How did you learn how to do all of those at once?
Well, I think you'd be amazed at your own capacity. I think some young people now, and I have one really great aspect of my council office is that I have a youth advisory committee. And we call them the Youth Action Corps. But it's big. It's over 800 kids.
Oh, wow.
And they're all your age. And so I spend a lot of time with kids your age. And I have for the past 8 years with this group. It hasn't always been over 800, but it has for the last couple of years. And I love to watch the generations of kids come through and sort of see their strengths. Like one thing I've noted about your generation is that you guys have a lot, it's great that you're doing this. Because I know this is probably testing you like crazy. Because the whole face-to-face interaction and not being able to just do it from a screen, from a distance on a phone is like painfully hard for your generation. And I think it's just, it's really important that we look at the strengths and the challenges of each generation in turn. So for example, your generation, it's very easy for you to balance a lot of electronic things and all the social stuff and deal with all of that. But I notice this generation don't like to answer the phone. That's a little too, can't you just text me? I don't want to, and or like talk to the clerk at the store. That's, you know, petrifying. Like, can I just,
personal, it's
right, can I, if everyone could just have like the Starbucks app where it's waiting on the counter for you, just walk in and get it, and you don't have to interact with anyone. That's gonna be challenging for you guys later because so much of life is about personal interactions. And the older generations, they may struggle with their phones and their computers, but they're way better at talking to each other, and they're way better at reading the language on each other. I mean older than me, like the older generation now, they're so good at knowing who all lives on the street, and so did what, and that guy's a veteran, and that lady has 2 cats, and it's really important stuff to know about your community and your neighbors, and getting close to people and having those relationships is a really big, important part of life. So I think we need to help your generation find ways to do that. You guys are doing a great job. But this video and what you're doing here is exactly what you guys need to be pushing yourself to do it. But that is how you get good at balancing. You push yourself to do things that you're uncomfortable with. I didn't know how to play soccer. When she walked up, the first thing I thought was, I can't be the soccer coach. I don't even know how to play soccer. I didn't play soccer ever. So I'm the worst person here who could possibly coach. It turns out that wasn't true, right? The reason it wasn't true is because I cared about the kids and I love kids, and I was more than willing to show up and be there with them and give them my energy and buy Capri Suns, right? So you don't even know what you have to offer yet. Unless you try. Yeah. The same, you asked me about my political ambitions. I didn't have any. So it's a good thing I gave myself the chance to just try it and see, right? I think that is the key to balance. It's really not as intentional as you think it is. It's more about pushing yourself and just saying, you know what, I probably can do it, instead of constantly limiting yourself in advance. No, I can't do that. I don't want to talk to that person. I don't want to have to do that. That's too many classes, too many AP classes, too many after school curriculars. I don't know if I want to be responsible for that. And that's what I hear out of the generation now. I think, why don't you just try it? You can always quit the job if it feels like too much, or get off of the team, or drop the class. But try. Don't be afraid to fail. That's ridiculous. There's no such thing as failure if you tried. You just try it, and then if it doesn't work, you don't have to do it.
Or you could find something that you're actually really interested in.
And you might be very surprised at what things that you gave a chance to that you actually really, really liked. So I think that's my advice on balance. A lot of people think, well, how am I going to balance family and work and all stuff? It's really not. You just move forward. You just move through life, and all of those things are sort of happening with you and around you, and you fit it all together. It won't be hard if you're enjoying it and you love it and it's what you want to do.
So you're talking about the youth action corps?
Yes, the youth action corps. I keep trying to get them to let me call them youth crew because it would just be so much easier for me, but they like youth action corps. So
that sounds official.
It does, yeah.
So why do you think, so you've been doing this for a while, so why do you think that like empowering youth is such an important thing? Why are you so involved in that, you think?
When I first ran, there was a little cohort, about 10 or 12 young people your age at the time, seniors in high school who wanted to work on my campaign because they just wanted to learn about campaigns.
Right, yeah.
And so I said, sure. And if I'm being honest, they weren't super helpful on the campaign, but I loved having them around. They were very nice and kind, and they brought a lot of energy with them, and they did care a lot, and I just liked being around them. It was fun for me. And so when I won, I thought, I'm gonna build that into the office so that I have that as part of my ongoing thing. And it started off sort of small, 20, 30 kids. It grew pretty fast. It was a couple hundred really quick. Because you know what I learned is young people really love to have an opportunity for stuff to do that is positive and fun, but also social and interactive. And it's just gotten more popular over time. So I'll give you some examples of things that the kids in my, we call it YAC, in the YAC do. So they do a lot of work in the parks. They'll do tree plantings or cleanups or spread mulch or bark or whatever. But they do it in such a fun way. They come early, they have donuts, they hang out with each other, they get in groups and they go work around and they get prizes partway through, and half the time they stop what they're doing and have an impromptu game of volleyball. If it's hot, they turn on the sprinklers in the park and run through them. And then, they also, I'm going to do the Women's March this weekend. They'll come march with me. They'll be in the march. They'll do an MLK Service Day event. They were in the Veterans Day parade with me. They hand out candy. They talk to people. They were in the Santa parade with me, handing out candy canes. We do a really big event. It takes 4 nights in our district. It's called Santa in Natomas. We put Santa Claus up on a fire truck, and we have a train of people in cars. It's like kind of like a parade. All the cars are decorated, and the cars are full of kids your age, wearing their yak shirts and Santa hats. And they jump in and out of the cars and hand out candy canes to kids along the route. And when we get to a park and Santa gets off of the fire truck, the kids sing Christmas carols and hand out candy canes. It's extremely popular, and it fills up very quick because it's so fun, and everybody wants to, be in a parade and ride in the train, in the truck or engine or the police cars, or jump in and out of cars and just have a good time. And so I think kind of including the youth in what we're doing enriches their lives and gives them opportunities for positive interactions with police officers and firefighters and council members and the mayor and little kids and parks workers. But it also does something for us. Interacting with you guys brings hope to us too. Reminds us what we're doing this for, right? Why do I care if the crime rate's low? Because I don't want anything to happen to you. Why does it matter if we have good bike lanes? Because I want you to be safe when you're riding jump bikes all around Sacramento. Doesn't matter if I ever get on a jump bike. You will, for sure. And I want you to be safe when that happens.
Looking out for the next generation.
Yeah, just creating a city that really works for each generation that's coming through here. And I think we have a responsibility to do that. And it's actually, it's fun too to think about it that way. So
what would you say the best advice you've received ever is? It doesn't have to be, again, like relating to politics or anything, but just the best advice you've received that's helped you a lot through life.
That's a big question. I've gotten a lot of advice. I think probably the thing that has helped me the most in my life is not so much advice, but having somebody who really believed in me. And early on, my dad, who early on really made me feel I could do anything, that there was no limit for me. If I wanted to be an astronaut, then I had all the tools it would take to do that. If I wanted to be president of the United States, then I had all the tools to do that. And if I didn't want to do any of those things, and I wanted to write books or stay at home or be a librarian or whatever it is that I wanted to do, and if it changed 100 times, that's okay too. I think that was very freeing and liberating and empowering for me to have a dad who, from the beginning, as far back as I could remember, led me to a mental space where I felt like I can do it. and I ended up being a single mom, and I still believed I could go to law school and work full time. I think a lot of people would think they can't. In fact, I've had people say to me, I was going to go to law school, but then this thing happened. And I never had those kind of doubts. So that's probably the best thing that ever happened to me in terms of encouragement. Some good advice that I have received in my life. I've received a lot of good advice, so that's really hard. But one thing I tell people a lot, and that I have had, has been imparted on me as well, is not to put the keys to your own future in somebody else's pocket. And I guess what that means is, if you want something, then you should go for it. I'll give you an example. If you want to be a CEO, don't wait for somebody else to tell you it's your turn.
Right.
Don't put yourself in a position of saying, well, I think that guy might be more qualified than me, so you know what I'll do? I'll wait and see if he does it. Or I'll tell her, if you don't do it, then I will. So tell me if you decide not to. Because now you've given the keys to your future success to her or to him. And I just think you need to hold on to that decision-making power about your own life and your own future always. So there will be a lot of times in life that people will tell you, you need more experience, or you're not ready, or it's not your turn, or I've known that person longer, or that guy's put in a lot more time. And those things are all, good information, but they're information intended to feed your decision-making capacity. You should never take your decision and give it to somebody else and let them be the factor X in your decision, in your equation, right? So you hold on to your own ability to decide what you want to do and when you want to do it, and how.
I think that's honestly so important for like the people that I know in high school now, for example, because like going out and exploring new things, especially when you like declare a major when you're going into college, a lot of people think like it's a lot of pressure on you to decide, by the end of high school that this is what you want to do for the rest of your life. And a lot of people think that, like once you decide on a major, that is it, and that you can't change. And that honestly causes a lot of people a lot of anxiety. And so I think like it's important to know that like a lot of times like it's going to change and that it's okay and you should be prepared for it. I really think it's important.
Also, it's really good that you're saying, and you guys, your generation, you put way too much pressure and stress on yourselves. It's like one of two things. You either give up entirely, right? Yeah. And just be like, whatever. Yeah. Or you're like, I have to be a standard of perfection. There's so much. You don't have to do any of that. Okay, when I didn't intend to go to college. I wasn't going to go to college. I am sitting in front of you with 2 degrees from 2 prestigious schools. The reason I went to college is because my best friend's parents told her she needed to go to junior college if she was going to stay living at home. And she is very shy. So she called me and said, you have to go to college with me because I'm not taking those classes by myself. She's my best friend. She's still my best friend. We were best friends when we were 15 and we're best friends now. So I said, all right, fine, I'll take a class with you. We took one class, American Sign Language, because it looked like it would probably be easy. It was not, by the way. But anyway, we had a great time. But we just tried it. We didn't have any pressure, like, oh, pick a major and get straight A's and be a doctor. None of that was on us, right? And we went and we had fun and we took that class. And then after that class, we were like, let's take more classes next semester. And then we started taking harder classes and we started getting really good grades. And only because we were having fun and enjoying it. And then I even had a baby during that period of time. But we still kept going to those classes because it was fun. And we were enjoying being together and we were enjoying learning. College is so different from high school because if you don't like a teacher, you just drop their class. You're in charge. You don't like this class anymore? You don't like that subject? Okay, I'm done with your subject, right? And the schools may want you to believe that if you choose a major, you can't change it. That is not true. You can change it 100 times if you want. It doesn't matter if they accepted you as an English major and now you've transferred to biology. too bad for them. You're in the school and that's what you're gonna do, right? That, you own that. They don't own that, you own that. You get to pick what teachers. You get to pick what time of day you're going to class and if you're working and if you want that scholarship or not. You're the boss of your college career, which is very different than high school where you have to go where they tell you to go and be there when they tell you and suck it up if you don't like the teacher, right?
Yeah.
It's not like that in college. So it's much better. You have more freedom, more control.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can let go of the fact that you don't have to be perfect, then you can really enjoy it. And what I suggest is that you do the best you can. If right now you feel like you're a biology major, then apply as a biology major. If you get halfway through your first year and you don't like biology, then just change it out. Who cares? You know, my degree is in sociology. I didn't even know what sociology was until I went to junior college and took some sociology courses.
Yeah.
There will be whole subject matters out there that you don't even know exist yet because they don't exist in high school, they only exist in college, right? Art history, astrology, geology. You don't learn that, any of that in high school, but those are all college majors. So you could pick one, right? And you don't have to commit to law school in your freshman year of college. I didn't even, if you would have told me I was going to law school, I would have told you I don't even know if I'm going to graduate from this place, right? But I did, and I did great, and I got great grades. I just didn't have a lot of pressure on myself.
Yeah.
So, and I got to go to UC Davis, a phenomenal school. And I graduated from there very quickly because I had done a couple years of junior college and I had that under my belt. And, you know, things were different when I was there. Now, if you go to junior college, you can get some guarantees to go to schools. That didn't exist then. You had to reach a certain GPA, but I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
I got called in by a counselor and asked if I wanted to go to UC Davis, and I was like, are you talking to me? Right? Like, why would I go to UC Davis? I'm a single mom in your junior college. Like, well, your grades, look at your grades. So you've qualified, so if you want to go. Wow, okay. And the same thing happened to my best friend, except for she went to San Diego State, University of San Diego. So, and we both got these great college degrees. And then while I was in UC Davis, I had a friend who decided she was going to go to law school. And she really convinced me to consider it. And that's how I ended up in law school. It wasn't like an outright plan. I got it. Thank you, Maisha. It wasn't an outright plan for me to go to law school or to go to Davis. They just sort of organically, naturally happened for me. And I think your generation puts a lot of pressure on yourself to already be in med school before you even got admitted to the school you're thinking about. You gotta just trust the process a little bit. If you don't get into MIT, it's because you weren't supposed to go to MIT. And that might be because Cal Berkeley's got something amazing for you, right? Or whatever, right? You just have to trust it a little bit and trust yourself that you'll figure out the dynamics and that you'll land where you're supposed to land. And I also think one thing that has helped me a lot is learning to sort of quiet the noise, because everybody's got advice for you. Your mom, your sisters, your brothers, your neighbors, your teachers, your dog. It feels like everyone wants to tell you what to do. And it's kind of like, which one am I supposed to listen to? The truth is none. All of them are giving you advice. File it away and find the voice inside your own self. That's the truest voice. That's the one that's going to lead you to the right spot. So you need to listen to that one. If that one is telling you to fight harder for something, then fight harder. If that voice is telling you, don't worry about that, then don't worry about that. It'll all work out. It will.
I think, that's something that, especially like with college admissions going on right now, like me and my friends, you know, when you don't get in somewhere, you tend to tie that to your self-worth.
You feel rejected.
And that's because no matter where you go, you know, like if you know that, like if you have ambition and you know, like I want to do this, or even if you don't know, like if you have the motivation to like find those opportunities, you know, I think even if you're not at like a prestigious college, like I think you're going to find the opportunities that you want. But a lot of people, like, you know, like the rankings of colleges and everything, that's how you rank your own like self-worth, and that's something that.
So let's be clear, going to college is prestigious.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter which one it is. And you should find something you love, whether it's the neighborhood, right? Or the football team, or the school colors, or the campus, or the weather, or the state that it's in, or a women in politics program, something that intrigues you about that school. Because in the end, that won't be the thing that mattered the most, but that will be the thing that brought you to the party. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I can tell you when the first time that an admissions counselor suggested to me that I went to UC Davis, my self-worth was pretty low because I was a single mom and I had a low opinion of myself and I didn't have like a high ambition, right? I just didn't have very high expectations for myself. So my first thought was, I don't know if I'll fit in. I don't know if I belong there. I had great grades. And when I went to Davis, I did just fine. Just fine. Then when I went to law school, I had the same self-doubt. I don't know if I can fit in here. I don't know if I can keep up. Man, all these guys are so smart, right? Guess what? They're all thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Here's the big secret. You all feel that way. There's no one who walked on that campus and was like, I'm the smartest person and I belong here. Every single person is thinking, oh, I hope I can get through this. I hope I'm good enough. So there's some camaraderie in that vulnerability. And also the rejection of schools. Everybody gets some rejection letters. It just happens. I think tying it to your self-worth gives those schools way too much credit.
Yeah.
They never even saw your face. There's no personal interview. They don't know you. They don't know what they walked away from. You can't give them that much credit. They don't deserve it, right? Now, if they sat down and interviewed you and met your parents and came to your house and saw your bedroom and talked to your teachers, and then, okay, maybe you think, yeah, they didn't like me. But that doesn't happen. It's not the way college admissions works. So I think, giving yourself a little more credit and just knowing all they did was look at a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And that's it, right? So there could be a million reasons. They maybe didn't even look at it, right?
Right, yeah.
So don't give them more credit than they deserve.